Good afternoon. The Secretary General and the President will make opening remarks and then we'll have time for a couple of questions. Secretary General.
President Čaputová, Zuzana, it's a great honor and pleasure to welcome you here to the NATO headquarters, and great to see you here among so many friends and allies. And let me start by congratulating you on your election and on the inauguration as President of Slovakia. And the fact that you are here at the NATO headquarters just 10 days after your inauguration sends a very strong signal of your personal commitment to this alliance and of the strong commitment of Slovakia to the NATO alliance. This year we celebrate the 70th anniversary of the founding of NATO, and we celebrate the 15th anniversary of Slovakia joining NATO. And since then, Slovakia has contributed and made many contributions to our shared security. We are extremely grateful for your contribution to the multinational battle group in Latvia, a strong sign of allied solidarity, and Slovak troops are part of that battle group in Latvia. Then we appreciate that Slovakia hosts a NATO force integration unit which can facilitate the movement of allied forces whenever needed. Slovak instructors have also been training the Iraqi security forces in key areas like demining and equipment maintenance. And in Ukraine, Slovakia leads a trust fund focused on dealing with unexploded munition. We are also very grateful for the fact that Slovakia has contributed and is contributing to the NATO training mission in Afghanistan, helping to prevent Afghanistan once again becoming a safe haven for international terrorists. And then, last but not least, I would like to thank you for your very strong commitment and the progress Slovakia has made on burden sharing, on investing more in defense. You started actually not so many years ago with a very low percentage of GDP allocated for defense, and now Slovakia is among the countries with the strongest increase, and your strong commitment and plan to reach 2% of GDP for defense. So all of this demonstrates and illustrates how Slovakia is contributing to NATO in many different ways. We just had an excellent meeting where the President and I discussed many different issues, including Russia's violation of the INF Treaty and the importance of standing together in addressing how NATO will respond to the Russian deployment of new nuclear-capable missiles in Europe. We discussed the EU efforts on defense, which we welcome, as long as they are part of a wider effort to strengthen the European pillar within the transatlantic partnership, not to duplicate but to complement the efforts of NATO. And then we also addressed the enlargement of NATO. We welcome the fact that soon North Macedonia will be the 30th member of our alliance, showing that our door remains open. So, Madam President, in your inauguration speech, you called NATO the pillar of Slovakia's defense and security because today's security challenges are too big for any of us to face alone. And I could not agree more. It shows the importance of all standing together based on the idea one for all for one. And as long as we are united, we are all safe. And that's the success of NATO, that we protect each other. So thank you once again for coming to NATO. Thank you for your personal commitment, and thank you for an excellent and very fruitful meeting. So welcome once again to NATO.
Thank you so much. Ďakujem pánovi generálnemu tajomníkovi za
Thank you,
milé
Secretary
privítanie.
General, for your warm
Dnes
welcome.
naposledy to moja
This is
druhá
my
zahraničná cesta
second
je určite veľmi
visit
špecifické,
abroad,
pretože
even though this is very
inštitúcie, ako je
special
NATO,
because
nie je pre mňa celkom
the
zahraničím,
visit
keď
to the
ide o
EU and
vec
NATO
spoločných
is
záujmov.
actually not a visit in a foreign
15
country
rokov
because
je
we
Slovenská
have shared
republika v NATO
interests.
pripomínaný 30.
Slovakia has been a
tohto
member
roku.
of NATO
15
for
rokov
15
máme
years.
najlepšie
For 15 years,
bezpečnostné
we
záruky
have
v Slovenskej
the
republike
best
pre
security
ochranu našich
guarantees
hodnôt,
to protect
všetkých
our
dôležitých hodnôt,
values,
ktoré
and
považujem aj
all
ja za
important
priority svojho
values
mandátu za tie
I
kľúčové,
treasure
ako je
and
právny
evaluate.
štát,
That is the
ochrana
rule of
slobody,
law,
demokratických
protection of
hodnôt
freedom,
a ľudských
democratic
práv.
values, and
Pokiaľ ide o
human
moje
rights.
priority v súvislosti s agendou
Among
NATO,
my
som
priorities
presvedčená,
in
že v čase,
relation to NATO,
rastúcich
I am
dezinformácií,
convinced
ktorých
that
objektom
at
je
the
aj NATO,
time
je
of
dôležité,
disinformation
aby sme,
campaigns, it is
my
very
ako politici
important
vo
for
verejnom
us,
priestore
politicians,
komunikovali
to
pokojne,
communicate
vecne, na základe faktov,
quietly,
a zároveň
substantially,
samozrejme boli
and based
zodpovední a
on
plnili si svoje
facts.
záväzky.
At the same time, we have to honor our commitments. As I said during our meeting with Secretary General, Slovakia is fully aware of its commitments and pledges because we declared them publicly. In relation to the 2% of GDP, we are pleased to achieve this target even earlier, in 2020, that is 2 years earlier. At the same time, at home, it is very important to invest all this money in a transparent way to enhance the trust of our citizens into NATO and the Slovak government. As Secretary General said, we also discussed relations with Russia and Ukraine. I'm worried that current relations with Russia are, so to speak, frozen as it goes for the dialogue. But I insist we have to make effort and cooperate with Russia, of course, while respecting fully the values and principles as is human rights and rule of law. At the same time, I understand our allies in the Baltic region. Therefore, I appreciate the decision to deploy our troops in Latvia. This is the way we once again showed that we are a reliable partner of NATO. At the same time, we want to support Ukraine. I believe that every country has the full right of decision where it wants to belong, whether it is the EU or NATO. I believe that Ukraine, most of all, needs stability and development. Secretary General, once again, thank you for the meeting today. I look forward to meet you in London at the summit where we commemorate 70th anniversary and continue the dialogue.
Hello, dobrý deň. I'm Jaromír Novák.
Jaromír Novák, Slovak News Agency. President, welcome in Brussels. I have a question for both of you. In Slovakia, there were some information that our Minister of Foreign Affairs could be interested in the post of Deputy Secretary General in NATO. Secretary General, can you imagine this could be a possibility? President, will you support Mr. Lajčák's candidacy to become Deputy Secretary General?
I will not comment on any specific candidate, but what I can confirm is that we are now in the process of selecting the new Deputy Secretary General of NATO, and I will appoint a new Deputy Secretary General because the current Deputy Secretary General will leave her position in the autumn. And this is a merit-based process. And we have several good candidates, and I know Miroslav Lacek from different occasions. We have worked together in the North Atlantic Council because he participates in the ministerial meetings of NATO as foreign minister. But I think it will be wrong if I now start to comment on the specific candidates. It will be a merit-based process, and then I will announce the decision when we are ready.
Ďakujem pekne. A viem o tejto informácii zatiaľ iba
Thank you. I know about this. I heard this information only from the media. I honor and respect Mr. Lajčák, and I believe this would be an honor for Slovakia if one of our politicians hold this job.
Dobrý deň, pán Peter Majer, RTVS.
Peter Mayer, Slovak television. Currently, we talk, there is much talk about top posts in the European institutions and how many jobs should be given to women. How important it is in NATO to have women top positions.
I think that if I start to comment on questions like that, I risk saying things that will be interpreted as if I'm commenting on a specific process in NATO. So I think it is a very relevant question to ask, but I will refrain from commenting just because then I will start to comment on the process we are in the midst of now when it comes to appointing the new Deputy Secretary General of NATO.
Okay, if there are no substantial questions, we will conclude this press point. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.